Joaquin in Florida on line 2. Joaquin, welcome to Seculo. You're on the air.
On Trump's New York case, where they're literally not allowing him to appeal because of this bond, there was a ruling by Judge Ginsburg, was there not? Wasn't there a Supreme Court precedent on the Eighth Amendment? My question basically is, can Donald
taking? That's like an improper taking. Go ahead and finish your question.
My question is, can Donald Trump go straight to the Supreme Court and just bypass what's going on?
He can't. He has to go through the Court of Appeals in New York. And, Harry, I'm not optimistic. First of all, he's got to post a bond before he can get there.
Absolutely. So he would have to go through the state structure first,
which is not going to be
get a final judgment from the highest court in the state of New York, and then he might be able to go to the United States Supreme Court. But arguably, that would take years as opposed to days.
If he can't post the bond, he can't appeal? But he
can
appeal on the bond being too high?
He can appeal, but they could seize the assets. In other words, the bond stops the seizure of the asset.
Doesn't prevent the appeal.
Doesn't prevent the appeal. You can still file the appeal. But the assets, it doesn't stay the asset forfeiture. The problem that he has is it's such a big number, and it's adding $150,000 of interest a day. So you're adding, in a course of a week, you're adding $1 million. 10 more weeks is $10 more million here. So the numbers are staggering. That's why I know he's not going to want to do it, and you say politically it'd be very risky. If this was a normal client, you'd file a Chapter 11 reorganization, Harry, to stop the proceedings so you could reorganize.
Absolutely.
That's what you would if it was a normal client.
Right. And I've had limited experience in bankruptcy court, and this would be the clear and unmistakable strategy that you would offer. And it's important to keep in mind that many large corporations, some of the auto companies, Chrysler Corporation and others, they've done this.
Yes.
And it's a successful, it can be a successful strategy. And so it is a way of blocking the Attorney General of New York. But politically, there are issues with respect to
Jordan,
declaring bankruptcy.
What would the politics of that be?
I think the politics are you'd rather have them bolting the door and showing that imagery that they're trying to lock Donald Trump out of what he's done in New York. And this is what they're going to do to you, too, in your businesses. If you let these DAs continue to thrive across the country, these Soros DAs, they're going to lock you out of your business, too. I think declaring bankruptcy he should only do that if he absolutely has to preserve what he has built and to protect him and his family. And I would understand that if that's the case and that's the best route. But if you can survive this without doing that and politically turn that imagery into an imagery of this is how the left treats a former president, this is how a left treats a successful business which has paid back all of their loans. For so many years, he's been operating in New York that has so many regulations, so many things you can get wrong in New York, and has had no issues whatsoever. And if he has, they've handled them, no criminal issues, no civil issues. They've all been taken care of. It's because he's run into these radical AGs. They did not exist before. And again, I think his message would be just like how he left New York, which I think could be very dangerous to New York, especially if he became president. If he said New York is not a safe place to do business anymore, and maybe we should even think about having the UN there anymore. Yeah. Think about all these things we could throw out. Maybe the UN should be in Miami. It's a more international city. It's got a lot more space to host it, and a lot more people would want to be there.
I mean, think about this for a moment. I mean, if you're opening up a business in New York right now, and you are conservative,
putting your assets there,
and have assets. See, the problem is, Harry, right? Once you're there, even if you just have one asset in there, they've got jurisdiction over your entire business, wherever it's located. Technically, she has extra jurisdictional reach. She could seize assets in other states.
Absolutely. And that is the danger of locating your business in New York. That's number one. Number two, building on Jordan's argument, politically, I think President Trump ought to argue that if they're coming after him, next, the people in New York will come after you. There was a recent case in New York involving an individual who owned $1 million house in New York and took action to remove a squatter. What happened in New York? They arrested the owner of the house. And so one of the things to keep in mind is that if you have assets in New York, you indeed are a target for the left. And increasingly, that's true for many of the so-called blue states.
Let's go to Susan, who's calling from Maryland. We are taking your call. I know this is confusing. We're trying to break it down for you and give you an understanding of each of these moving parts that are also at the same time impacting a presidential election. This is uncharted territory in U.S. history, and we're giving you the breakdown of this. Susan, go ahead.
With ACLJ's help, the Colorado of Trump not getting on the ballot was immediately addressed as election interference, and he should be put on the ballot. But obviously, the other three charges, the first run that Trump made and the woman accused him of sexual misconduct, did not occur until he was a candidate. When she knew he was a candidate, then this all started. With the Fani Willis, clearly she did not want to do a recount for him, and her behavior is showing questionable paths of what she has done.
She ran on getting rid of Trump. That was her campaign motto, as was, by the way, Fani Willis. But go ahead, Susan.
They should all be lumped together as election interference. There should be no question. It should go before they all are leaving trails. It's obvious, even with Leticia James. An outrageous bond is a direct trail to her not wanting him to ever
The
run.
greatest election interference we're seeing is the weaponization of the lawfare through the legal systems. It's through district attorneys, it's through state attorney generals, and they're doing it. And right now they're successful because Trump, the former president, is looking at an asset forfeiture. That's what we're talking about. Asset forfeiture here. That could be devastating to his business and his enterprise. So, look, in this Georgia case now, you know, the judge is saying that there is an appearance of impropriety, and he's letting the DA stay in the case. Now, that hopefully the Georgia Court of Appeals will take it. We're filing a brief in that. Folks, that's why you need to support the work of the ACLJ, because you know what? We're defending democracy here in a constitutional republic. So in our Life and Liberty Drive, any amount you give will be doubled. And if you become an ACLJ champion, and again, thank you to the over 20,000 of you that now have. We have decided that we believe that it's possible for us to add 350 more members of our ACLJ Champions group between now and the end of the year. So if you can give, that'll make a huge difference. ACLJ.org for that, ACLJ.org, and you can become an ACLJ champion.
That's right. And again, ACLJ champions are at the tip of the spear because you're getting us prepared for those issues that we don't know are coming so we can jump on them and fight right away. So if you can become an ACLJ champion, do it today at aclj.org/champions, and your gift today will be double the impact.